Hey guys, Elvin Prince here, back with the RWBY fight scene analysis. I know it's been a little bit since I last did this, but yeah, we're back in action, and hopefully it won't be quite as long. So, here we have the black trailer. This introduced one of my favorite characters, at least aesthetic-wise, as well as fighting style-wise. That would be Adam. And this is something I'm a bit more familiar with as opposed to fencing or using a gardening implement. So, support the original creator and all that jazz. The link will be in the description. And yeah, without any further ado, let's get rolling. Though I will note, this is a bit less of my favorite when it comes to the music. Blake songs have always been a bit off for me.
It's time.
And here we have the first spoken line of the entire show.
Okay.
By Garrett, I believe is his name, but the voice actor of Adam. Really a huge step up in the animation. And is that Raven or Crow? And here we get not a horrible view of Wilt and Blush. I believe Wilt is the sword part. I believe it's based off of a katana, and Blush the scabbard rifle mixture. And just walk in and wait. And well, Aedo isn't my main focus. The whole anime swordsman thing of, quickly drawing and sheathing. Well, not to that speed, but a good example is Virgil from the Devil May Cry series. Multiple attacks flowing into each other, being aware of your surroundings, and then at the end, you sheath the blade and wait for what's next. And again, not an expert, so I apologize if there are any experts in the room. Feel free to correct me.
Doing this the hard way.
I would love that.
Don't be so dramatic.
Intruder, identify yourself.
We just had our first and probably one of my favorite intros to a fight within the show. Gets up, shoots the blade out hilt using to stun. He was actually one of my favorite characters in Amity Arena to use up there with Ironwood. Shame that game got, discontinued. But, you have to deal with that. But, yeah. And again, the Aedo concept of sheathing the blade after each combo, and it's cool. To actual fighting that I can look at. So the blades, can't really comment much on them. They look like, kitchen knives strapped to someone's arms, and they need to improve the armor. Probably just gonna mute this so you're not hearing the same audio clips over and over again. But to the back, slow it down. Let's go half speed. We've got one of the folks, I'd almost say waiting its turn, but advancing cautiously would work just as well. Firing, and that was actually cool to see, some person just deflecting bullets. Now it's, and I'm trying to get a, okay, that I think is a better view of, I believe it's Gambled Shroud, but it is a shortened blade about, I want to say, one of the wonderful things about that weapon, its size changes in every single fight scene we see it in. I've seen it be, maybe about a foot long to maybe 2 feet and anywhere in between, just in terms of blade length. And back there, there's I'd almost call it like a Urukai machete type blade, just with sort of almost a D style grip where it just goes straight into the blade. Not sure how to classify that. And strike, followed by a hit down. And we have a Black Widow posing sequence. Some sort of semi-auto pistol built into the handle, and a ribbon for a grappling hook almost, along with, I think, using the blade as a sight. Yeah. Now that we've moved beyond the straightforward style of Adam, where it's just, quick strike, sheath the blade, and anime swordsman, it falls apart. Run up, deflecting the bullets. Again, we have a severe case of off to the side. Our friends waiting their turn, though that can be excused by possible friendly fire, though it also could just be them, not being animated. And now for the strikes she did. That is something like a variation I end up doing a fair amount. More or less, you rush. And for me, it's normally like longsword, but, up, blocking a strike, and then you turn, cutting like along the side of the back side of the arm or the rib area. Though it can be adjusted to like neck, spacing on the medical term, but the area right below your actual rib cage, and our first glimpse of Blake's shadow clones. And what she did, bat it out of the way and go in for a strike towards the chest. Works just as well. I approve that. And boom, again, down strike, ends up here, and then she goes up stab again, I believe. Yep, up stab, and spin. I think Skullagrim has a video about the bladed commas that he did within the past few months that or not bladed commas, that goes without saying, chained commas. And this is a very large case of, as Shadversity puts it, lightsabering. You know, it just cuts right through them without really leaving any resistance, partially to show power of our heroes, or anti-hero, I guess, for Adam, villain. At this point in the show, I'd think of him as an anti-hero still. And here we have our running robots. And, you know, hit them up. Blade cuts them. And sheath. Overall, not bad. I am questioning why you would, you know, throw it past your opponent when you could have more readily, you know, thrown it into him, ripped out some more important part, and then, you know, either gotten out of being surrounded or, you know, just turn to face them. And did Blake's bow... Huh. That's a small detail I didn't really notice before. You can see Blake's bow ears, you know, tilt back. Though I am gonna chalk that up to more of wind. The bell booty. And so the wind, you know, pull back, pulls the trigger, and lightsabers its way through the crowd, somehow managing to not get tangled up. This, I'm filing it under, well, not rule of cool. I think we all know how improbable, impractical, and more or less impossible that is. Static explosion animation. But, yeah. We have Adam with his flurry of blows. And let's slow that down all the way. So that's, you know, runs up, turn strike. That'll cut through like the head, upper torso area. Couldn't tell if there was a twirl to get the one back. Cut through the body. Cut up and back. Yeah, I'd say that for someone who is highly trained like Adam is, and the fight still is going a bit fast for me to properly get a look at, even at 0.25 speed, it really gives you a sense of Adam's ferocity. I think that works itself out. Poor things never stood a chance. And strike with fire dust. Okay, bit excessive on the wind up there. I don't think you need to go all the way. And this is the first use of wilt as a rifle, which we don't see much of, but then again, Adam's a Blitzen. I swear I've seen that exact same moveset from Virgil and DMC5. Inexplicable airtime, showboating, and okay, so looking at the actual mechanism, fires and then quick asset switch, but from the looks of it, when you put in the blade, it extends the sheath out, which possibly could be a function of the stock and butt of the rifle. So it's, it folds and goes over itself a bit to form a proper rest for you, which he never uses. Then when you put the sword in, puts the sword in, it extends into a full sheath, allowing the blade to do that. Okay, that's not a bad idea. And here we are. Plant the charges. Adam, no. And in the background, I think it's here. Yep, you see the spider mech building, the SDC symbol. Still think that would have made for a better scar over Adam's eye, because that's what we've always seen SDC as, not, 2 bar lines above 500 or whatever people mistook it as. Which is, in a way, equally as horrifying, and the spider mech shows itself. Adam, and here gathering some form of dust energy. If I had to guess by the coloring, I'd say dust. And gimbaled shroud out. Jump. Cut in, flip around. That does nothing. And honestly, what are you expecting? You're slashing it with the sheath. No, there's an edge on it, but that defeats the purpose of a sheath. It's stomping about when it has artillery that it should be using to fire on it. Again, cutting into the air with no reasonable momentum. This is falling under anime swordsman level of fighting, so there's that. Adam grabbing his accomplice. And here we have, gonna turn some sound on for this. I'm not gonna turn some sound on this because it's at quarter speed, building up for its mega charge. That's cool how they did the recoil. And it's slow reaction time from our man who is going too fast for me to get a proper look at quarter speed. You know, Spider stomps out. Sorry if my commentary in this part is a little sparse. Believe it or not, I don't normally fight large mechs. Dodging explosions, using dust clones, and pulled up. Multiple strikes that, in theory, should be just digging in, maybe. Multiple strikes, jump up. Okay, actually going off on a little tangent about the clone. I think it's cool how they're used here. Like, you can see them being used before we get a proper explanation in. God, what was that? Like, the final episode of season 1? Scratch that. I'm going to guess it probably has a dial switch on the side that can move it within the safety, moving between automatic and semi. Flipping off, buying Adam some time, and gymnastics. I have my feelings about those, but that's really not this, because single opponent, it's larger, slower, all that jazz. And simply for this, one of my favorite scenes early show. Unfortunately, something that did not translate well into the newer engine is Adam's semblance. I wish we could have, I wish more semblances got glamour shots like this. Because the way the dissolve is blending into the moon, just with the minimalistic black, red, and white, it's amazing. And Adam just steals the show here completely. With the I cannot speak, with a jacket. Not sure if that would classify as like a key.
Bye.
And now, call me stupid or whatever, but I don't think a blade about the length of my, middle of the upper arm to forearm is gonna reach that, 6 foot gap? If, that's something that's always been a bit shaky with the show, blade length, as we'll see in the Haven fight, which I hopefully will get to and tear to pieces. And shot fading into, guess what, RTX 2013. RTX 2013. And speaking of the glamour shot, let's just hold on. Sure, let's go with that. Hold on that while we discuss some of the finer details of the weapons. I have pulled them up on my phone and will be reviewing them based on general design and, all of that. So, one thing that I have generally noticing is people can't seem to agree on the actual design of the sheath and the blade. I'm seeing, curved hilts, not hilts. This is not Charlemagne's sword. Curved hilt, curved sheaths, to go with the more lightly curved katana blade. And just note, a katana is traditionally a two-handed weapon. I've personally always ended up using it one-handed, but that is because my weapon of choice is normally a bastard sword. But with it, you've got the curved sheath. I've seen the magazine being put, in front of the firing action, and behind it, bullpupping a gun or whatever. But yeah, overall, moving off of the inconsistencies, it's a dust blade, falling into the thing of being a bit more fragile in terms of things, compared to the more high carbon, or not higher carbon, the spring steel used in Europe. But yeah, overall, I like the weapon design. It works out well enough for me. And now for Blake's weapon. This is where it gets a bit more interesting, because it is looking at it, don't see a switch on the side, but that doesn't mean anything. It is a semi-auto, or I'm calling it semi-auto pistol with a blade. Dear God, that cross guard looks unwieldy and difficult to use. On the back edge of the blade, there's a tooth, probably part of a folding mechanism to store the blade. And we have the actual sheath itself, which looks like it weighs way too much to properly use for extended periods of time without putting excess strain on your arm. Sort of reminiscent of the lead henchman's sword in the Butcher of Blaviken fight. But overall, the blade looks flimsy. It's a good mix of way too much in certain areas and way too little. In terms of the actual weapon, it is not one of my favorites. I think in some ways, RWBY's is more practical, because it has the spear tip at the end and the ability to go into a bore scythe mode and a sniper. While that weighs an ungodly amount, most definitely, it is mostly powered by recoil, if I recall, in terms of actual motion, as opposed to this, where it's just awkward. But yeah, there's that. One of my. The fact that all of this at. I had to go at quarter speed to properly get a good view of it. And looking back, giving them extra prep time, and in theory, the miniguns should have started whirring already, because if you have blades, why use fists originally? Those are what? Elysian Knights, the 135 version. They were a good card. They had a shield, and when paired with Emerald, they could take a beating. Anyway, there's this. This is just a quick-paced fight. It hides a lot of small mistakes and some fairly large ones as well, but just because of the amount of motion on screen, it's fairly hidden. But anyway, thank you for watching to the end. If you liked, you know the drill for that. There's going to be a playlist. And yeah, until next time, this is Ellen Prince, signing out.